Good morning, Freddie. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Thanks so much for joining.
Oh, thank you for inviting me and happy to be on.
Okay, let me briefly introduce you to our audience, and then we'll switch to a very interesting topic of data-driven creative in programmatic ads. So Freddie has a serious experience in programmatic advertising. He's been leading big media teams on both sides, like agencies and brands. And he actually was the one who pushed Viewst team into this particular direction of bringing together creative and media and providing data to creative teams to make creative more data-driven. So Freddie, once again, thanks a lot for joining us today. And let me start with the first question about how is the integration of data analytics actually transforming the traditional creative process in advertising, and what notable shifts are you seeing in collaboration between creative and media these days?
It's a brilliant question, and there's so many connections. And as you can see, I can. We went through a period in media. I'm going to go back into the 80s and 90s when you saw creative and media split. And I think now with data, with the evolution of AI, and so forth, you're seeing creative media come back together. If you think about from just a concepting perspective, the amount of insights that are being driven from media to know consumption patterns, attention patterns that can be pushed into your media and into your creative and into your creative design. But then also on the back end to understand, did that perform? Did that person like it? Do they like the green button? Do they like the red button? Whatever it is, right? Like that data is so fundamental to be able to make those decisions. So I'm seeing data more heavily utilized from the beginning all the way through to the end. And then throw in on top, I know DCO has been around for a decade now, creative optimization, but you throw in things like the data on top to be able to build out and then make changes in real time using AI and so forth. I think it's coming back together, and you're seeing some of the big media partners do it, right? The Googles, the Facebooks, a lot of the DSPs bringing them back together. So yeah, it's very interesting to me that the convergence, I guess, of creative and data and media altogether.
It sounds so exciting, but I probably want to speak a little bit more about challenges, because as you mentioned, historically, these two teams, they used to work sometimes in most cases even for different entities, so they don't have very good connections. And it used to be the case that media teams usually provided just aggregated data in best case scenario, right? And most cases, designers and creative teams, they don't understand what's going on with this or that particular creatives. And you've just mentioned that now it's getting more kind of transparent. And I know case studies in paid social, where you have very direct connection between creative and data, and you can provide this data to your creative team. But when we are talking about display ads, it's much more complex, because in most cases, or at least there are a lot of cases when brand is pushing creatives to campaign manager and then choose different DSPs. And inside campaign manager or DSP, these are only titles, so you don't have preview of creatives, and it's very difficult to build this attribution, what behaves how. So do you see these challenges, or maybe they're already there are solutions, or maybe it's manually solved?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's true. Like if you think about the social world, it's in paid social, you're kind of stuck in your ecosystem, right? You buy your media and you load your ads, and it's all in Facebook or all in TikTok or all in Reddit. Where in programmatic, you've got so many people playing, right? Like there's so many different tool sets and so forth. The ideology is the same, right? But to your point, it is much more complicated in the sense of you've got a DSP buying the media in here, you've got the ad serving tools, you've got different data sets. And I think what often happens, which is the bit that I think that Viewst is trying to simplify, and I think that we have to, is it's taking the data and the massive data that the media teams sit on in the DSPs, and then making it readily available to a designer, so it is easy for them to utilize and then be able to play with. And it speaks their language, right? It doesn't help a creative agency if you come in and you talk about how the New York Times was 50 cents more expensive than CNN. They don't care, right? They want to know how the creative perform between one and the other. And so I think it's taking the media data, translating it so it's valuable to someone in creative, so they can then use that data to then action and make decisions. So that's the challenge, I think, for most people is finding the common language between the two, and then linking up all the data sets, which is always entertaining. But I think it's speaking the same language.
Okay, so there is a challenge. And can you evaluate like the scale of adoption of such tools that help designers to get like real-time information about their design performance? One thing, and like second, okay, let's stop at this one.
I think it depends who you ask. I think if you go to if I look at the big companies and the big agencies, I don't think the adoption's there. I think everyone knows it's a problem.
It's such a shame. I lost you.
There you go. We're back now. All right, perfect. We can just do a fun cut there. Beautiful. Is it still recording? We good?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So your question.
The scale of adoption of such tools that help designers to get real-time information about their design performance.
Yes, and so when I think about answering that question, I look at it like if you take smaller ad tech, smaller partners up to the kind of big, somewhat like I work at HP right now, and the big kind of behemoth kind of media spenders and creative spenders, if you know what I mean. And so if you look at the big guys and you look at the big agencies, I don't think there's a ton of connection there today. I think a lot of it's done through Excel. I think it's done through PowerPoint and insights at the end of a campaign. They're all sitting on the data, and I know there's a lot of pockets and a lot of people working on it, but I don't think it's readily available. I don't think everybody is utilizing it today. I think if you go to some of the smaller, not even smaller any longer, but like a lot of the e-commerce, they've really worked out the ability to take the data in real time and then start to adapt their creative much faster. And I think it's just an evolution of the industry to kind of adopt it. I think everybody sees the problem, in my opinion, and how they can get more out of it and how they can be more efficient with it, which is obviously a conversation for a lot of people at the moment, with kind of some tough times. But hopefully some positive ones in the future. But I do think that people see the value of it. They just haven't necessarily delivered it yet across the board, though I think there's opportunity to do that, obviously. So.
Okay, so as far as I understand, like the market opportunity is still kind of, big, and it's very beginning of this evolving trend, right?
Exactly. I think it's huge. I think the opportunity is huge.
Okay, and then like I want to go back to your first comment about like automation on the side of majors like Facebook and Google, and I'm specifically interested in discussing this responsive ads. So as far as I understand, responsive ads is by far the most like automated and like data-driven creative. But as like I've been talking to different big brands, like use customers and prospects, and as far as I understand, they try not to use responsive ads because of brand safety reasons. It doesn't look good all the time, and that's why I'm like, first of all, like your experience, like whether you buy this responsive ads or you prefer to work with like creatives that are like fixed and approved by your creative team. And my second question here is like, again, you mentioned like we've been working with DCO creatives for more than a decade right now, and I'm wondering how like whether it works as it's supposed to work, or it's still like when you speak DCO, you mean like that you prepare a lot of different creative variations and you set up all the triggers manually and then it's out.
Yeah. So to your first question, my take on it is that I'm just thinking exactly what you asked, but actually, I'm going to answer your second question. I'm going to talk about the Google piece and the Meta piece first, and then I'll come back to so the Google PMax, for example. right? Like that's their new shiny product, or it's been new and shiny for about a year now. And it does responsive creative, right? It builds it for YouTube, it builds it for different discovery or whatever the different channels, right? Shopping and so forth. As a business, we are petrified from a brand safety perspective, or brand quality and brand safety. But I look at it as a solution. So this is the answer to your question. This is the solution to it is the direction things are going. Has it got the controls that we want today? Not at all. But I think it's the way that we need to be able to deliver. And I think it actually connect. And then the same with, and if you think about like what a Viewst could do, it does it does it in the open web, right? Like you need to be able to be responsive. You need to be able to quickly remove and change and fit things to the different. Right? We know, and there's a connect to DCO. We know that every year Forrester produces a piece of content, or not just Forrester, that says people hate advertising, right? And then we know that people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and trying to get them to look at content is getting harder and harder and harder. So you put those two things together and you go, well, we have to make more interesting, more relevant, more powerful creative that's going to break through when someone's got very little attention and probably is not really wanting to look at your content anyways. So to me, if you put that all together, responsive, clever ways to connect it in is the way of the future. Yes, there's the brand safety. Yes, there is the risks and all the concerns that, and the approvals and all the pain that comes with moving to a more responsive model. But I do think it's the way that the world is going to get kind of pushed into. I will then just connect onto DCO, because DCO for me answers exactly that. DCO to me actually is the worst of the worst when it comes to the way we use DCO over the last decade, right? That sneaker that chased you around, or that shoe that chased you around the internet for the next 3 months after you already bought it. Or I remember when I got married and I got wedding content for the next year after I'd got married. And I'm also the worst person because my wife was dealing with all of that. If you ask me, I had no idea what was going on. And so like you take all that, and I think we did it completely wrong. And like, it's like, so how do we take DCO? How do we take all of these tools and the data and then make content that is beneficial again to the customer, so they actually remember and they find the information we can pass them relevant? Maybe I'm living in La La Land, but that's where I wish we could get to. So
okay, and then it is actually moving me to my probably last question for now, about all this disruptive technologies, and we live in a very interesting time, and the level of AI adoption even after just 1 year. Of course, it's been said that marketing was probably by far the first industry where we've started implementing all this algorithm in media buying, right? So it's not a new thing for us, but anyway, I'm trying different angle from like, okay, creative perspective. So data-driven creative, AI analysis, and maybe even AI production. So again, you are leading quite a big, not quite, you are leading a big media team. So probably you are the one who actually building this new trend. So can you share what you see from your perspective, how AI is actually transforming the creative and probably like overall media buying?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think if we talk about just media buying, everyone who kind of has talked about how AI is revolutionizing media buying today, and I kind of look at it and go, yeah, we've been doing it for ages. We called it machine learning. We call it deterministic AI. Now it's generative AI. And obviously it's getting better every time, but we've been working on this journey for years, right? Like, what was it, Yahoo in 2007, right? When they bought Right Media and the search product. Like, you can even go to Google, I think 2005, but I'm going to get wrong there. But like, I've seen it happening across the media piece. I do get excited about the generative capabilities to bring in creative plus signals and generate content that becomes more relevant, like we were just talking about. And I would love to see us do more of that. I also would love to see, I like the efficiencies that it will bring us as well. And that does, I mean, and I look at that more so, how do you remove mundane work and let the creativity and brilliance of people come to light, right? Take out the trafficking sheet or the I don't know, keep on going, right? Like the less pretty tasks that we all end up doing. I look at AI to really support us in that sense. And then I also I can see it really helping us drive kind of again, just more taking data, coming up with new ideas and bringing up new thinking that we maybe not have done, right? Computing tons and tons of information and then creating ideas that it would take a human a long time to do, and seeing if those resonate with people and seeing how they work. So those are probably my areas that I'm most interested in. I think the media piece is just continued evolution, in my opinion. Exciting, don't get me wrong, but continued. Let's see if we can make everybody's days more exciting from a more simplistic, removing the kind of the more painful tasks, and then let's see if we can break through and start to make advertising valuable to the world again. So.
Yeah. So from what I can see, you know, actually this new technology, they help to eliminate probably some, you know, administrative tasks and making people more involved into their actual, you know, job. But do you think that technology can eliminate human factor at all, or?
No, I don't. Maybe I'm sitting on the wrong side of the fence here because I guess I'd be out of a job if it did. But I don't. I remember. I feel like I'm being a bit nostalgic in this call, but in this interview. But you go back, like I remember back in like 2010, 2011. I remember sitting there going, "Oh, Google's going to automate everything, and we're never going to need to touch paid search again. It's just going to run itself." And it's what 14 years later, and we still got paid search experts still deep in the tools. Maybe if you go out 50 years or 100 years, yes, 100. Maybe, but I don't look at it in the next 5. And I really hope that we don't do what we talked about with DCO and we go, oh, there's a really cool tool. Let's build something that just becomes kind of makes advertising even more frustrating to the consumer. Yes, maybe it worked, and it did. Retargeting worked very well in a lot of cases, but what is frustrating to I hope that we can use the evolution, the AI and so forth to make it more beneficial again and really bring benefit back to the customer, because that makes our job as marketers easier, right? If we make their lives happy and they want to buy our products, that's what we kind of have to do. So yeah, 100%. Answer, yeah, I guess. And so yeah, I'm not concerned about that. I do think there'll be efficiencies, and I think that I would this person at HP said something to me recently that I quote, because someone asked him, do you need to be worried about your job around AI? He said, the only thing you need to be worried about is if you don't keep up with the AI, because someone else will take your job. And I thought that was a really good answer. So yeah,
really smart. Yeah. Freddie, thanks so much for this insightful conversation. And I hope this is not the last one. And once again, thanks a lot for joining. And I wish you a great rest of your day.
And you, cheers, everybody. Thank you.